Hello and welcome to Patrick's Models and Transports. This evening we're going to have a look at a shunting engine, a heavy duty shunting engine, a tank engine belonging to the French State Railways SNCF. Let's bring it into view. Very well, here we can see it from the rear, and we can see it right beside two of its predecessors in that role. Two 030T 30, Series 30 Boer locomotives, and this, let's just quickly move the layout. It's on wheels, move it into place, it's easier. And now we can have a look at our locomotive. Let's regulate the sun. Okay, the sun is a 40-watt bulb. Okay, right, so here we are, ready to go. So the 040T, we're looking at an 040T or TA in SNCF denomination. In origin, an ETA 40001, and the class was the ETA 40001 40143. In origin, these locomotives were designed and built on behalf of the Administration des Chemins de Fer de l'État, meaning the administration of the state railways, which at the turn of the century, these were the state lines. Also, the two 030T Boer locomotives you see here near our 040TA are also ETA locomotives. So back to our 040TA. What was to be the 040TA under SNCF, and here we see the locomotive in SNCF livery. We can identify it as the 040TA 112, so it's locomotive 112. On the buffer beam, there's no number because this Jouef model could have been customized, and you could choose your own number, and then with decals you could fit it on and make your own locomotive. But the side plate here, which says it belongs to the depot of Batignolles, it identifies it as SNCF 040TA 112. Very well, so a potted history of the class. I've done my homework. These locomotives were designed following an order of 1913 to replace 060 locomotives in shunting duties. And we can see the 030T Boer class, they were among the locomotives that they wanted to replace in shunting duties. And they were built between 1914 and 1922. Of course, production was interrupted by the Great War, and 143 were built. At the same time, similar locomotives are also built for the French industrial sector. In origin, they had open cabs, as we can see on our model. We have an open cab. Let's see if we can have a quick look at a better view. We just put the light on. That switch on. Okay, you can see that the cab sides are open, so not much in terms of crew protection in this case here, and we know that France can be quite a rainy place. In fact, we can see it here from the front. We can understand how let's take that off. Okay, I prefer normal light. It's supposed to be like the sun. Okay, so in origin they were built with open cabs, open-sided cabs. They had sloping tanks to improve the visibility for the fireman and driver. And at the same time, towards the end of the 30s, the closed cabs, they started fitting side paneling on the closed cabs to improve crew comfort. In 1938, the French State Railways SNCF were established, and the class became what was the ETA 40001 40143 class became the 3-040TA /3-040TA 143. 143 recurring number, 143 locomotives were built in this class. 52 locos were then commandeered by Germany during World War II after the fall of France in 1940, commandeered or confiscated, etc. And 25 of these never returned to France, and they were stricken as lost or destroyed due to the conflict. Then between 1956 and 1960, 12 locomotives of this class were sold to the industrial sector, so they continued alongside their similar locomotives that were built at the beginning, at the turn of when these locomotives were new. And withdrawal from service, I didn't really manage to find any clear data on this, but we can imagine late 60s, 70s, maybe industrial locomotives lasting a bit longer, in particular in collieries, in steelworks, where the locomotives are running on the same fuel that's used for that is either extracted in a coal mine or used in a steelworks. But more or less, we know that the age of steam in Western Europe ends more or less in the late 70s. In certain cases, we have some countries, for instance, Italy. The last mainline steam was in 1978, but shunting steam remained in service at least until 1981, 1982. I remember when I was a kid, passing behind part of a railway station and seeing some black smoke. I was passing with a car, my mum was driving, and she told me, oh, there must be a steam engine there. There must be a steam engine. And no doubt there was a steam shunting engine. Later on I discovered that Padova continued fielding steam shunting engines for some time. Anyway, that's to round things up on the class. Two of these locomotives of this class have been preserved. One is 040TA 137, which has been preserved by AGECTA, the Living Railway Museum in Longueville, in the district of Seine-et-Marne. And also 040TA 41, which has been preserved by a private person, a certain Monsieur Gouillot, at Château de Saint-Fargeau. Sorry, my French, I speak various languages, but French, I can read French and I can understand French if people are speaking slowly. But French is not one of my foreign languages. I hope I'm not wobbling this phone too much. Anyway, let's have a talk about the model now. The model, this was a very long-running model by Jouef, and we can really appreciate, let's put the background light on again to see the details of the model. We can really appreciate that this was, Jouef had moved into the model sector. So this model locomotive, was in production by Jouef between 1967 and 2000 under the Jouef brand, and it's a really very, very detailed model. The body is all in plastic, it's molded plastic. It has a good ballast in the boiler. It's quite a heavy locomotive, and it has a good weight also at the bottom, but it's very, very heavy. It has good ballast, very good ballast here in the boiler and in the tanks. And we can just go round the back and have a better look even from the back. Here you can see it's quite detailed. Also the smoke, the firebox door is visible. So it's quite a detailed model. Even if you want to fit some crew in there, we can see that all the riveting is there. It's really very, very, even with some slight, we could nearly factory made slight weathering on it. And here we can see the electrocution hazard sign on the dome, and a good coal load at the back in this typical French bunker. And this model has got, pardon me, I'm getting a pointer. Yes, that's clever. Okay. It has a light at the front here. Prototypically, it should have two lights here on the buffer bar, but of course, for reasons of simplicity, in the smoke box in here, there's a light bulb, a normal filament light bulb, and it lights this headlamp here at the front, and we'll see it when we're running. Earlier models also had a rear light in the bunker, which lit the rear lights. But I saw some videos on YouTube. They didn't invert according to the direction the locomotive was traveling. The lights, both front and rear lights, are on all the time. Regarding the technicalities of this locomotive, so in production between 1967 and 2000, in origin it had a 3-pole motor and gear transmission, so straight gears. Then, in this case, my model is a much more recent model, and built between 1973 and 2001. I'm having a wee look at the box. So, this is the box. Here we are. And by the look of the box, now I'm not an expert on Jouef boxes. I would go more or less, this might be an 80s locomotive. I wouldn't really know if there's some data or some serial numbers where I can identify it. 80s could be 80s, could be 90s. This model here, the one we're looking at tonight, has got a 5-pole motor, and it has the famous French belt drive between the motor pulley and the drive shaft. So I'll just take it off the rails a second and we'll have a look at the locomotive. It's quite a heavy locomotive. It's not light. I've not got the scales in here to weigh it. Base plate is made of plastic. Under here we have, it's all held together by nice Jouef brass screws. Pickups are very, very good. The pickups are on the front 3 axles. We can see wiper pickups behind the two central sets of wheels, and another wire, sort of like nearly a guitar string or wire pickup, that goes and touches, I don't know if you can see it, goes and touches the tyre and flange of the front axle as well. The drive is to the rearmost axle, the one that has the traction tyres on, and so practically under here we have a longitudinal drive shaft which is connected to a pulley. In fact, if you look inside, you'll probably spy, there you go, right under my thumb, you can see the motor pulley, which is connected to the drive shaft right there in correspondence with the second set of wheels by a rubber belt. And it's a very, very good system. Sometimes it might get stuck, there might be a bit of slippage. I changed the belt because the belt was absolutely rotten. It was made of black rubber and it was decayed and brittle, and I ordered on eBay. There's a French, I could even maybe put the link in the description, a French seller that they actually make these rubber drive belts for Jouef locomotives out of siliconic plastic, which is has much better performance. It tends to deform less. They're very, very good. I have them both. This is a belt-driven locomotive. My other one is the 140C 231 that we've seen in previous videos, and the one that's currently out of service because it's missing. I found the traction tire, the broken traction tire. I found it on the line, so I'm going to have to order them again on eBay and put it back in service. So this is a locomotive. It's a really very nice locomotive, very detailed. Going back to both the model and the original locomotive, the scale 1-to-1 scale locomotive, Valschertz valve gear and a simple pressure boiler. That was what my data. The original locomotive has got a traction effort of 40 tons, which is a very, very powerful shunting locomotive, and even the model is a very, very good shunting locomotive. You can pull very heavy trains with this locomotive, and so I'm just going to couple our coal train up again, and we'll just, which is a controller, here it is, and we'll just let the locomotive speak. Here we go. That's one of the problems with the belt drive. Sometimes it's temperamental and it won't go. Give it a push. There. One of the tricks is to put it in reverse. If it refuses to move forward immediately and it tends to slip, you put it in reverse. There you go. Now it won't go in reverse and it goes forward. Okay, it's we'll see. It's a good idea in many ways, but it's also a bit on the it's a bit of a wonky idea on the other side, because I'm sure the original models with the straight gears, straight tooth gears, were probably noisier. They're certainly noisier than this, but definitely more reliable. But it's a good idea. Anyway, it's a good idea in a way. I can understand why they did it. Okay, that's enough waffling for the moment, and we'll take the light off. Is this light off? No, it's not. Off there, off, right. Okay, back to natural light to normal light bulb light. So this locomotive, the 040TA, it's pulling a coal train. So we'll have a look at the wagons and then we'll get going along the line. So the first wagon is a wagon of ballast, a ballast wagon full of ballast, the same one I used on the fuel train. This is a modified, heavily modified and improved toy train series Jouef wagon of the early 50s and 60s. I bought this wagon and these other three second-hand from a woman in Paris, very nice person. They had belonged to her grandfather, so when her mother passed away, they cleared the house and they found a lot of material that belonged to her grandfather. She had never seen it, and she discovered her grandfather was an excellent railway modeler. Lots of things were put for sale. This is on the Vinted platform. There were mainly trucks and wagons, and I bought a lot of these wagons, and they're really, really interesting because we'll have dedicated video to these. But they were modified really well, replicating turn-of-the-century wagons of État and the other lines. So really a very, very, very good wagon. The second wagon is a Jouef 4-axle bogie goods wagon. Then we have another. Hello, are we going? Yes, we are. Oh, the belt drive, the joys of the belt drive. Forward, forward, forward. It doesn't like stopping and starting. Then we have another two coal wagons, still those early Jouef toy trains, modified heavily with different couplings, different wheels. I'm going to buy at least one or two of these wagons as they were in origin, with the big Jouef tension lock, very similar to the one used in the UK at the time. Now they're a bit smaller, but really these are incredibly detailed. Maybe some broken parts here, for example. This one has a chipped part. I'll have to rebuild that. I also did some modeling repairs on this. I don't maybe even hear them. I might need a bit of attention, so we'll definitely be seeing these here on the. I think I bought all the ones that were still for sale for very, very cheap prices. Okay, on we go. Then the train has, apart from three coal wagons, it's also got another wagon full of lubricant oil, drums of oil, which are required on a railway, and then we have the Jouef brake van with the rear lighting. And I think that's enough chatting. We'll let the train speak. There, it behaved itself and started without any hitches. You can hear that it's a very quiet locomotive. That is the advantage of the belt drive. It's quiet. We compare this here to the Pico, one of the Pico ones that was running before, Pico tank engines with a gear drive to each axle, the racket they make. This is really, really quiet. But the thing is that, for instance, even the 030 Boer is very quiet. This has inclined motor, worm drive and gear, and this is very quiet. The 5-pole motor version. The 3-pole motor is extremely noisy, and this in 3-pole and gear drive would have been dreadfully noisy, because the Jouef 3-pole motor is a real noisy unit. I think that maybe they overdid things with the belt drive. All they needed to do was to keep the gear drive and just put the 5-pole motor, and that would have simplified. But the French have always had something for, trains with rubber tires, and it's always been. You can see the front headlamp. In fact, we'll put the We'll switch the sun off, that way we might be able to appreciate the front headlamp better. Let's move over here. Let's move this here a bit. It's a very, very quiet locomotive. The rear lights, brake van. And we see the town. There's lots of traffic today. A bit of a hill there. Very quiet, very smooth running. It has these little temperamental behaviour with the rubber drive belt, but we see some other trains in the sidings, the big express train, my homemade rail bus, the BR55 in Belgium livery, the 1312B. Oh, somebody's abandoned a large battery in there. I wonder who that was. Me. Water tower by Faller, if I don't remember badly. These two houses should be Faller as well. A present of an old friend in Austria many years ago. You see some Kleinbahn, Austrian carriages over there. You can go at really slow speeds with this locomotive. It's got an excellent adhesion. Right, we'll now reverse into the siding. You're not wanting to go. You want to go forward. We don't want to go anywhere because the problem is that the motor gets warm, and of course the pulley, the metal pulley of the metal motor pulley gets warm, and the belt, the siliconic rubber belt drive slackens, and then it doesn't want to collaborate. So I don't know what direction we're going in. We're going by. It needs a wee push every now and again. And these locomotives deserve. Then there's all sorts of kits, conversion kits to remove the belt drive and things, but I like the quirkiness of the belt drive. I do like it. I mean, I must be a glutton. I'm a glutton for punishment, but I like mechanisms. Apart from the models, I'm very interested in mechanisms, and I really enjoy different and vintage mechanisms. It's one of the things I like most. Anyway, we'll round it off here. Let's have a spot of light because we're a bit we're a bit in the dark here. Very well, so here's our locomotive, and anyway, I hope you found the video interesting. If you've got any questions, any suggestions, anything you would like to see, of any experience with this locomotive and other locomotives by Jouef or by any of the other makes you can see around the layout. If you have any questions even on the cars, we have a few different cars around tonight. We have there's a big director's out in his vintage Mercedes. There's a Fiat Fiorino box van delivering ice creams. And I think there's a big Volvo 240 as well. So, and here's a Fiat 242 van. We'll have to talk about some of these as well. Anyway, that's enough chatting for the moment. Anyway, I do tend to say anyway quite frequently. Now that I hear myself recorded, I'm always saying anyway. I have to work on that. Okay, so if you like the video, give us a like. If you're interested, you can support the channel by subscribing, and just click the notification bell to remain up to date on what I'm doing. And as usual, thank you for your kind attention, and cheerio, and see you next time. Ciao, ciao. And its station clock says it's 20 past 10 again, but in reality it's 10 o'clock, 10 p.m. And we'll zoom on the Fiat 242, which is Rail Mail Model Railways, Watford and Glasgow. This is a promotional van of a model railway shop. I bought this in a charity shop in Glasgow in 2015, I think. In HO scale, of course. Anyway, with that in view, cheerio again, and see you next time. Ciao!